So what is Java? Java is a language you use to communicate with the computer. Let me explain. When you open an app on your laptop or phone, like Facebook, you get this thing called as the user interface. So with Facebook, you get a page that has a bunch of functionalities like a place to post updates, a bell icon to view your notifications, etc. So that page you see is what's called as the user interface, or UI for short. Through that interface, you communicate with the phone or laptop to do stuff for you, like post an update. So more or less, you are giving instructions to your mobile phone or laptop. Now, here's the thing. The actual possible way that you could have gotten the phone to do things for you would have been by writing down the instructions using what's called as the programming language. But obviously, when you use Facebook, you are not writing any code. The reason is the Facebook developers have already written the code for you. And then they've designed the UI so that when you interact with the page, the code that's hidden behind gets activated. So obviously, through the page, you are able to invoke the code that instructs the computer. Now, before we talk about the Java architecture, I want us to look at this first. In this diagram, I want to talk about code translation. When you write your code in any programming language, that's called as the source code. Before the source code becomes binary, which we've talked about in previous videos, it has to be translated. Now, there are two types of translators, which we'll explain about in future videos, but for now, know that the two types of translators are the compiler and the interpreter. Python, for example, uses an interpreter to translate your code, and languages like Java, C++, C use what's called as the compiler. So whenever you hear me say compile, it's just the process of translating your source code to binary. Now let's talk about the Java architecture. Here I want to emphasize on how Java's architecture is different from C, C++, etc. With languages like C and C++, when you write your program, let's say on a Windows computer, and then you compile on that computer, you won't be able to run it on other platforms like Mac and Linux. Instead, you have to recompile the source code on a Mac and also on a Linux computer in order to be able to run the program on those machines. So because of this, C and C++ are known as platform dependent languages, but Java on the other hand is platform independent. What that means is that you can't compile your source code once and it will run on all computers. The way in which this works is that when you give your source code to the Java compiler, it produces what's called as the bytecode. The bytecode isn't the binary itself. Instead, it's some type of code that can be run by a machine called as the Java Virtual Machine, or JVM for short. The JVM runs it and produces the binary for the computer. In this chapter, we'll be setting up your computer for programming. Now, in order for your computer to be used to program in Java, you're going to need two things. First, something called as the Integrated Development Environment, or IDE for short, and another thing called as the Java Development Kit, or JDK for short. An IDE is basically the set of tools that makes it easy to write your code and compile it. And also, if after writing your code, there happen to be errors in the code, you'll be able to use something in the IDE called as the debugger to fix the code. Now, there are a couple other tools that also come with the IDE, but we'll discover those as we continue with the course. I am going to be using this IDE called NetBeans IDE, but there are a couple IDEs out there like IntelliJ IDEA and Eclipse IDE. Feel free to use anyone that works for you, but in order to follow along with these lessons, I recommend that you use NetBeans. The Java JDK is also what you install on your computer that makes your computer able to compile and run Java applications. With the JDK, you get something called as the JRE, or the Java Runtime Environment. Inside the JRE, there is the Java Virtual Machine, or JVM, which runs your application's bytecode. So now we'll install the JDK first. So open your web browser and then type Java JDK download. You'll find this link with title Java SE downloads. Click on that. Now here we can find the download link to get the installation package. However, we have options regarding which version to use. As of November 7, 2020, Java Standard Edition 15 is the latest release, but usually latest releases aren't stable yet. What that means is that even though it's out there for public use, it may contain some errors. So we'll go with the latest stable version, which is Java SE 11. Click on JDK download link here. Now on this page, depending on your operating system, find the version you need. I'm on a Windows computer, so I'll go with the Windows X64 installer. So when you click on the download link, it'll require that you log in first. If you don't have an account, create one and then finish the download process. So I already have it installed on my computer, so I won't be installing it again. And also the installation process is pretty straightforward anyways, but feel free to leave a comment down below just in case you couldn't install it, so that I can help out. Now let's go ahead and get the NetBeans IDE and install it. Back in the browser, search download NetBeans IDE. Click on the link with title NetBeans IDE download. So here in the platform drop-down menu, you can select your operating system platform, and at the all column, click on download. Now I also already have it on my computer. I have this the NetBeans on my computer already, but the installation process is also pretty easy. And just as the first one, if you have any problems, just leave a comment down below. And also there are a ton of resources out there, that shows you how to install NetBeans IDE anyways. So here is where we end today's lesson. In the upcoming lesson, we will learn one more step until you can start writing Java code. And we'll look at the basic syntax of Java as well. So if you like the content, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe.